I'll stand up. I'm the author of Paranormal Scene Supernaturally. My dinner and my stomach had a really violent confrontation. So, you know, if I pass out, I'm really close to the floor, I won't get hurt too bad. I'm the author of Paranormal Scene Supernaturally. I'm going to repeat myself. And these books are written about Evie, who's a 16-year-old girl working for the International Paranormal Containment Agency. My favorite thing that ever happened when I said that to someone is she said, "Is that a real thing?" Yes. Yes, it is. I have my own custom taser for taking down vampires. She has a very unique ability to be able to see through glamours. And what this is if you or I were walking through a cemetery and we saw a tall, good-looking man, we'd be like, hey, there's a tall, good-looking man, which is really the wrong attitude for a cemetery. You should be more respectful, not trolling for dates. If Abby were to see the same man, she would be able to see through his glamour to, unfortunately, not the sparkles that lie underneath, but rather the corpse body of the vampire underneath. And immediately know what he was, and then be able to tase him to bag and tag him for Ipka. And Ipka's role is to keep you and I from knowing about all of these creatures of supernatural myth and legend who are alive and well and among us. It's a big job for a 16-year-old who daydreams about having a locker, going on dates, you know, the really good parts of being a teenager, especially the lockers, the dates. I just really had a lot of fun with it. I love reading paranormal romance. These are some of my favorite authors. But there's not a lot of humor in it. It tends to take itself very seriously. I joke that paranormal romance is set up like this. If I'm not with him, I feel like I'm going to die. If I am with him, I actually will die, making out in between. I love that part. That's my favorite. Just read those parts over and over. And I also really like mythology and cultural and regional myths and legends of these supernatural creatures and seeing how they vary but have kind of the same characteristics across the world and across time. And so what I wanted to do with a lot of these creatures, I put everything in. I mean, I put in fairies, I put in werewolves, I put in vampires, I put in hags. You don't see a lot of hags. I put in gremlins, not as a love interest though, because gremlins do have acidic saliva and kissing scenes would be really gross. That would not be one I wanted to read. I really had fun kind of pulling them away from the pop culture concepts of what they have become and going back to the more traditional stories of them, especially with vampires. I figured I could never make a vampire as sexy as Balthazar, and so I was going to make them gross. So Evie lives in this world that is very paranormal, but she longs for this normal world. And there's a very cute boy who also maybe happens to be a shapeshifter, but offers her a way to find that balance between the normal and the paranormal. Supernaturally picks up pretty soon after Paranormal C leaves off. I don't want to tell you too much about the book in case you haven't read Paranormal C, but it is a direct sequel, and then the third book, Endlessly, will come out next year. Yay, next summer actually. So I'm very excited about that, and I apologize that they did not get my book sent. I assume you can buy these if you don't have a copy. I also have the book plates to sign and bookmarks, and to make it up to you, I'm going to read you the first section of Endlessly, which I don't do. I always read a passage in Supernaturally about unicorns, because unicorns. But I have another creature in this one that I think you might like. I probably should have opened it up and found it first, but, or I could read you Neil Gaiman's book. He writes better than I do. I can say that without feeling bad about myself, because he writes better than pretty much anyone. Okay, so this is Endlessly. Chapter 1, Pink Goes With Everything. That's another thing about Evie. She has a slight fixation with the color pink. And by slight, I mean very large. Here's the thing about dragons. I know absolutely nothing whatsoever about them, which made my task to scare raccoons out of the alley behind the diner much more complicated. Instead of the mini masked bandits, I was greeted by a pale serpentine body with feathers raised like spikes along its spine and shoulders. Its face was almost wolfish, a long snout cut by two thick tusks jutting out and curling up over the lips. Oh, and claws, sharp claws. You are not a raccoon, I whispered. Nay, child, I am no wee beast. The air tasted like charcoal as its voice slid out, high and smooth and ageless, momentarily shocking me even more than the fact that there was a dragon hanging out behind the trash cans. It talked. Well, of course it talked, Debbie, because really, what kind of self-respecting, trash-can-scrabbling mythical dragon wouldn't talk? I was equal parts terrified and annoyed, but at least the dragon didn't smell as bad as unicorns. Then again, unicorns were herbivores. It breathed in deeply, a golden glow growing in its chest. For once, I didn't think that light was related to its soul. No soul, definitely fire. I didn't have time to dash back through the door and close it before being roasted, nor did I like the door's odds against a dragon. I could make a break for it down the alley, but I had no idea how fast this creature was. I decided on honesty. "Are you going to eat me?" I asked. "Is that your desire?" "Not really, no. The winter formal is coming up and it's not going to plan itself, so this is kind of a bad time for me. Can we reschedule?" I took a step back. People used to fight dragons, right? I could do this. All I needed was a full suit of armor, and a sword, or a mace, or some mace. The door opened behind me, flooding the alley with light from the kitchen, and I yelped in relief. "There you are," Nona said. She nodded to the dragon. "You two know each other?" Why did this surprise me? Of course the resident tree spirit would know the talking dragon hanging out in the alley, just like she knew every other weird paranormal recently lurking about town, and I had no doubt that this meeting too would go entirely unexplained. I so needed to get a new job. "Evelyn, I have served your friends milkshakes. Please enjoy your evening." Smiling placidly at me, Nona walked out past the dragon toward the end of the alley where the forest pushed up against the town. The dragon fixed one gleaming, dark pink eye on me, then winked. Forget a new job, I needed to get a new town. A breeze blew past me in a massive gust, flinging my hair into my mouth. The dragon took a few graceful hops, then slid like a snake through the air after Nona. "Fabulous," I muttered, going into the kitchen and shutting, then locking the door. Glad Nona has another new friend. Taking a deep breath to clear my sinuses of the lingering smell of smoke, I squared my shoulders and walked into the main part of the diner. I just faced off against a dragon and came away char-free. I was ready to fight. "Now," I said, sitting down at the corner booth and glaring at the 5 other teenagers there, "who says pink isn't a good color scheme for the dance?" I will tell you that Evie, when she was younger, Lish falsified a transport order to get her into a premiere of a certain very popular vampire series movies. And she can tell you with certainty that the vampires are not vampires, but the werewolf, actually a werewolf. Which she was okay with, because werewolves, she likes them just fine. I'm not even talking about my husband because I really miss him, and that would just make me sad. But I will tell you an adventure of teenage Kirsten. So I had a boyfriend at the time. I quite liked him, and I went to Mexico to a resort with my family. I was 17, and there was a really cute boy there. He worked at the resort. He was like the assistant to the tennis instructor. My sisters play tennis. I am lacking in any sort of coordination or grace, or really anything that would, in any way, be athletic. Not my gifts. And but this boy Carlos was really cute, and he was funny, and he spoke English pretty well. We ended up hanging out with him a lot. And the last night we were there, I was saying goodbye to him, and they do the cheek kisses. And so I did it, leaned to kiss him on the cheek, and I said, "Look, I'm a Mexican." And he's like, no, I'll show you how Mexicans say goodbye. And he leans in, and there's this split second where I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to kiss me. And so, being a girlfriend, I lean back and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't kiss you." And he was kind of disappointed, but I was never the type that would just like, I could never do flings. They didn't feel honest to me. And so I bid Carlos a fond farewell, but not as fond as he would have liked it to have been. And then I went back home, and I was hanging out with my boyfriend, and I told him that story, and he said to me, "You should have let him kiss you." Needless to say, that relationship did not last much longer. I guess that wasn't actually romantic at all. That was funny.